Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Are You Screening podcast. I am your host, RUScreening.com's own Mark Eastman, and with me, as always, is co-host extraordinaire Shane Leonard.
Hello.
Man, the dog is having some fun.
Yeah.
So this week it's our best list, and because last week we got hampered on time, we got to do
Right.
Mickey 17
Right.
really quick, and which Mickey 17 is like such a weirdly interesting thing to cover right now, especially because of Pattinson himself. This weird connection.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going through the list and redoing, slightly tweaking, like just within the last few hours and
Right.
last night.
Right.
And it's like, no, this is 8 now.
Right.
And
Right. Yep.
what
Yep.
is or isn't on the list. It is a crazy year, but it weirdly made me think of Mickey 17 just because other things.
Yeah.
But so we're just going to jump into Mickey 17 and be pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then we will get to the best of the year. So if you don't know, which you might not, because it didn't get as much hype as I thought it would.
Yeah.
I guess like a decent amount, but I would have thought
Coming off of an Oscar win
right
for the first Korean film, like just there's so many things about Bong Joon.
You
I
you
would've
just
thought
you
Bong
just
Joon-
would think everyone would go, hey,
Yeah.
it's the next
Right.
thing by
This
him,
is the new thing.
and it's got somebody you know in it, and
Right.
whatever. So you would think that there would be something, but
Not much.
but it's too weird and sci-fi. If this
It
had
is.
been something that could more closely follow up, like be a normal,
Yeah. Right. The safe.
drama
Right.
thing or
Right.
whatever, it probably would have had a lot more.
Yeah.
They would have hyped it a lot more. But it's all weird and
Hype's a good one
sci-fi.
because it wasn't that it didn't have support. It just
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have hype.
No, it did.
It just didn't have the hype. I would have thought something coming off of Parasite would have.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so this, I don't want to go through the movie too much because we have to be pretty quick. But you're out in space. It's Mickey 17. The premise of the movie is that they have we're way in the future. We're like deep space colonizing planets.
New place. Yep.
And we're on one such ship.
Yep.
Which is basically it's kind of a. I'm surprised they didn't go into this a little more, and they did like a little, but not really. Basically, Earth has like made these ships where it's like just go be your own
Fiefdom.
right? I mean, it's like
You're a floating fiefdom.
like you
whatever
are.
you want.
You're so far away.
Yeah.
This is not like expansion.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, whatever. This is like, I don't know if you loaded a boat up and said that's your island now.
That's it. It's almost like seafarers.
Oh,
it's almost like you are the
It's
captain of
so
this boat,
wild.
but also if you find land, tell us, and we'll
Yeah.
get there.
It's a very
But you're the ruler
it's
of that
a very,
land, too.
very wild thing.
Yeah.
Where all these people sign up to be on this ship.
Yeah.
Go, I'm up for that, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the technology that's relevant is we've figured out how to basically just like print copies of people. And we're on 17th Mickey.
Right.
And he signed up to like escape debt or whatever. Yeah. And basically, I think pretty accidentally signed up to be this thing because he didn't really know what was happening exactly.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, get on the ship and there's
a long line.
No other way.
There's only 10 seats. Yeah.
And they're like, really, you'll do this? So
yeah.
So
if only you were expendable. He's like,
right.
Well, come into this very short line.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. So they can transfer your mind and they reprint another body for you and they just keep doing that. And then you're expendable and then they keep killing them off in new and exciting ways.
Yeah.
Like sometimes just for kicks.
Just for the fun of it, you know.
And then they just make him do whatever hazardous thing happens, and
Yeah.
then they just make another one.
Yeah.
Hilarity ensues.
Right.
And the real hilarity ensues as the movie tries to kind of really hammer home its kind of spoofing of right-wing people.
Yeah.
And then we get to the point where, you know, you can never have two at the same time.
Yeah, there's a weird ethics
Because
here.
because apparently
Right.
we found a spot in the Bible, you know, whatever.
Right.
Whatever weird thing it is where everyone's like, well, this is fine.
Right.
But if there were two at the same time,
That would be too funny. Right.
then, you know, where's the soul and who's got the soul now,
Right.
and
Right.
whatever. And
Yep.
so therefore, you know, all the religious people have to be against it.
Right.
And then we come to the point where we end up having two of him at the same time.
Yeah.
Because
Accidentally.
basically accidentally, because they thought he was dead, so they
Right.
made another one. And then he wasn't dead.
He just walked back in. He's like, "Hey, I made it. I'm okay." And they're like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
And anyway, the whole, it was this whole like nightmare plot really, where we find the planet, then there's, you know, the inhabitants of the planet are these very weird creatures who can talk to you.
They
And
look very threatening.
yeah,
they
it's
look-
all,
You know.
it's really, they look like tardigrade
Yeah.
bears,
Basically.
but
Yeah.
giganticized.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then now we hate them and we have to kill them all, but wait, they're good. And
Yeah.
and
Sentient
Mickey
and-
17 is all
Yeah.
caught up in the, it's almost like in a way like a really like slapstick film noir, because it's like he just suddenly finds himself in the midst of like everything that's happening
Right.
somehow has to do with him.
Yeah.
And he's at the center of it.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell what it's about. And you know, I was really kind of like let down by this movie, mainly because I mean I liked it. It's a pretty good movie. It's fun. A lot of it is just goofy, where you're like, I feel like you're just being goofy here just because you think it's fun to be goofy,
Right.
not because it's going to be meaningful or lead
Right.
to something, just because you want. And then there are some parts where it's like there'll be like 5 minutes of the movie where it's like, I just wanted to flip off right wingers right here. It's not, has nothing to do with
Doesn't service
anything.
the
I just
story
wanted
deeply.
to call them
He's just
assholes,
here.
right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you know, hooray,
Right.
but
That's your
also
film.
it doesn't really, you know, I wanted to be like blown away, right? I wanted it to be like, I wanted everything to come together. Even as it got to like the halfway point, I was like, you know, I'm kind of disappointed. But if it just will whatever,
Yeah.
then it kept kind of doing weirder and weirder
Yeah.
things, and then I was like, so I ended up giving it a 7. It's good and it's
Yeah.
fun and it's screwball.
Yeah.
And some of the parts where you're like, you're just being screwball for no reason.
Right.
Eventually you go, oh, well, okay, that one, I guess there
That
kind
paid
of
off
was
a
a
little.
reason, you know, whatever. But it just did not feel like I was watching a movie, whether it's sci-fi screwiness or like this whole class warfare parasite thing, whatever.
Right.
Just didn't feel like it was quite like by the same.
That guy
Yeah.
who's got
Like,
that hand and does everything. Yeah.
it just was a little bit disappointing. But overall, I liked it. I think Pattinson is really good in it.
He's really great. He's
I
really good in that.
I think that bad him is cartoonishly bad and shouldn't have been quite like he is. Like he could have been basically that same character, yet we could have had something better happen.
Yeah.
You know, if he would have just been, he was so like he should, like we first see him and he just stands up, twirls his mustache, and it's
Right.
like, I
There's
mean,
a
okay.
there's a
I
level.
don't remember anybody saying any of the other Mickey had like wildly disparate
Right.
personas
That would have been
they
fun.
suddenly were, which it just seems like now all of a sudden this will kind of work for what I want to say. So now it works like
Yes.
this, and it's like, I don't
There are
know.
times where he feels like he's doing his, and he's not that I know of anyway. But you never know. I would never have known Keith Richards was the original idea for Jack Sparrow until Johnny Depp told me. Like now it makes sense. Like people get their inspirations in weird corners. When he starts doing things like that, he reminds me of like Bruce Campbell from the Evil Dead films, who's just like got a faced mug and
Right,
like he's just leaning into it. I don't know if that's what he was doing, but the last time, excuse me, the last time I remember a film, and there's been others more recently, this reminded me a lot of The Fifth Element. I love the beginning of The Fifth
almost.
Element. And then it doesn't go off the rails. I would never say Mickey 17 goes off the rails. And I didn't love Luc Besson's work the way that I love Bong Joon-ho's work right now. Parasite blew me away, and he's got a bunch of other films that I think people should see. But I was more amped for this, and I thought the trailer looked really interesting. Just along the way, just sort of like fragments into these things that are happening that I don't even think are from. I don't know. Can't remember if this was from a book or a short story. It doesn't matter. Like I just think it felt episodic. There were times where you're like,
Right.
he's gonna put you guys down this route, and sort of just let the camera go. And what do you guys think would happen? Yeah, let's film that. It just didn't feel like it was really the same hand directing this the way that Parasite felt. Absolutely like under the scalpel. Perfect. Perfect
Right.
cuts everywhere. Perfect everything. I still had a blast with it. I gave it a 7.5. That sweet spot, 7.5 covers an incredible open space. Um, I was not bored, but I was disinterested at parts near the end and just thought, come on, just get to it.
Yeah.
Even a little bit over 2 hours, it's not dragging, but it definitely doesn't feel brisk the way that Parasite did to me. And Parasite is a longer movie. Still think this is really fun. I think if you're a fan of sci-fi films, I think you're gonna have a good time with it. It's not terribly like violent like Starship Troopers or as um, satirical, but like Mark said, there are some things here where he leans into uh, people that certainly resemble politicians that we're looking at right now, and it's on purpose. It's not an accident.
Right.
I think Robert Pattinson just keeps doing really great work. It's really fun to watch him. He was unlike anything. I mean, he's not like anything in The Lighthouse or anything in Batman. Like this is just hitting a stride. It's really cool, and I'm always a fan to see Mark Ruffalo, Tony Collette, Stephen Wen, like just all these other people that are in it. Um, yeah, a good time, a fun time, but disappointing. Weirdly disappointing because it had that expectation because Parasite was so strong.
And I think it kind of,
Yeah, I do
and I
too.
think there was so much that happened
Yeah.
where I feel like at a certain point, it's not like it goes off the rails, like you said. But
No.
there's a certain point where it seems to kind of lose touch with whether it's a story that also is like, mocking right wing politicians and people in
Mm-hmm.
general versus like, I just want to make a political cartoon. Like
Right.
I want it to be so far that that's all there is anymore. And it's like, well, I mean, okay, but
As an ingredient, it's missing something that even recently Poor Things had. Yorgos Lanthimos' film is like a satire, it's a take, it's a reimagining, it's a commentary on social everything, and I was never bored watching it. Never. And it's not that it had better actors, different ones, Ruffalo's in that too. It's just these things where you see filmmakers who now have reached a level of making films and filmmaking, of course, that should carry a certain skill set. This one just felt sort of like someone was imitating him instead
right,
of him.
right.
The first 30 or 40 minutes, I thought, here we go. This is great. I'm all over this. Do this
Right.
again. And then it just sort of fragmented.
Yeah, it just
But
it
totally worth seeing.
yeah,
Um,
it's good and fun and definitely something to check out.
It actually will be interesting because we both loved Parasite very much. It was my number one. I can't remember if it was yours. I think it
Yeah,
might have been.
yeah,
We're gonna do our list now. We'll see where Mickey shows up. If it shows up.
yeah. It's not shown. But anyway,
Death blow. Oh, poor Mickey.
so we got to do our list, and
That's rough.
we
We can do
we
this.
frequently take a really long time doing this,
Yeah.
but we're gonna try to be
Let's see if we can do it.
timely in how fast we can
Yeah.
do it.
Right.
But I have to also throw in
Oh.
that because our last episode we tried to touch on a bunch of movies,
Yeah.
because they were big popular things and whatever, and so in keeping with that idea, I'm also going to throw out a bunch of movies really quickly,
Yeah, the just missed.
whether we talked about them or not. I have a few that kind of count as like the just missed,
Okay.
but also just movies that I have seen on tons of people's lists.
Oh, yeah.
Whether we actually covered them or didn't cover them or whatever.
Yeah.
But I did go through and check out a lot of lists, and they were disappointing. Fair.
I suspect you're not going to like my list this year, so this should be pretty close.
But there were. This was such a weird year, I think, and I think kind of an overarching thing to this year
Yeah.
is that there were enough movies that people thought were going to
Yeah.
really shine
Do it. Yeah.
and suck.
Fell.
And then we had to like fill in movies, whatever, or we had to maybe pay more attention to movies. And what happened was, and you know where to send your emails.
Right.
There's a number of movies that I think it is politically correct to like these movies.
Yeah.
And not that they're actually bad, because a lot of them they're not.
Right.
But it was like, well, we have to have something,
Right.
and this seems like the
Something.
great thing to champion, right? So
Yeah.
this
Let's
is
do
the
it.
greatest movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think most, again, that doesn't mean that they're
awful.
garbage,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep.
Most of them, a lot of them anyway, were really good, actually.
But not.
But were they the best?
Yeah.
I
All
mean,
right.
Were they
Let's
like the top 10? No, but so I'm just going to run through like a whole bunch of things, okay? That I have seen on
others.
At least a few people's
Yeah.
lists, or if it was like a one.
Once our list, I don't know how you do it. Once my list is done, then I look at other lists and I see the same repetition
Yeah.
of sorts.
Okay, so Civil War,
Oh yeah.
which was
That's right.
goofy and nutty and
Yep.
not even very good, I wouldn't think. But I've seen that on a lot of people's lists. Nosferatu was on a lot of people's lists,
Yeah.
and it's
Top of a lot of
Goofy
people's
and-
lists. Yeah.
horrible.
Right.
And we covered that
We
one.
did that.
The Beast is a pretty good, weird movie about going to your past lives and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And it was cool, and the acting was really good. But was it at that level? I really don't think so. Another one, obviously, tons of attention is The Substance with
Yeah.
Debbie Moore, which I think it's an okay movie.
Yeah.
I did not get
You
what
didn't see what they saw.
I did not get what other people saw. I think Demi Moore was good. I don't think she was great either.
Yeah.
I think she was good in it. She wasn't bad in it.
Right.
The movie's not bad.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's just I was like, it was very Honora to me.
Yeah.
Although Honora was bad. So it wasn't even like that. Anyway, Conclave is on a ton of
It's a
people's
lot
lists.
of people's lists.
And it's not on my list, even though, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I think for me
It is a good movie.
for me the ending just kind of negates most of what I watched in the first place, because the ending is
this too.
the ending is just we covered this one. The ending is just like, man, here's like this statement I wanted to make, and it's like, for me that is like you thought you were watching one movie,
Yeah. Right.
but you're watching a whole other movie.
Right.
And I mean, inherent in the ending is you have to have this person who just showed up gets elected, and I'm like, man, I don't care what that shit stuff happens.
Right.
That ain't happening.
It's not happening. Not in this room, not for this job, not with these people.
Just
no. Right.
But all the rest of the movie is really good. I mean, it is really cool conversation. It's really cool characters. There's really good actors in it.
90% of it is
really, really
strong,
good.
Right?
Yep. Then you got The Brutalist, which is on a lot of people's lists.
A lot of lists.
And
you loved that movie.
No, I didn't.
You gave
it's good. I thought it was a good movie. I would never put it on my list.
Not the best list.
No matter what it was up.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Might make a surprise showing.
I think there are a lot of movies this year that are like, Emperor Has No Clothes. Right. Whatever. Yeah. They're like, everyone says it's good and therefore it's good. I don't know. Anyway, so moving on. Challengers, which we did not cover.
Right.
A lot of people love this movie.
A lot of people. That was on a lot of lists.
Zendaya's in it, and so you have to love it because Zendaya's in it.
Right.
And I
forgot about that.
I think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It really is a good movie. It's not exactly my cup of tea movie, because it's really kind of like Whiplash, tennis people, right? And, Whiplash had to get over the fact that I don't really care about your drum teacher, and it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this really could not get over the I don't really care about your young tennis stars or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. The characters are cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything from it that fully elevated it that much that it was awesome.
Yeah.
But it was good. And then another one that a lot of people are mentioning is I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
Which is a cool movie.
Yep.
But for me has very little chance of being the best movie. It wasn't even trying to be a best movie, I don't think. It's a lot like some people had that movie with Beavers on their list.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that was like a cool thing. Was not one of the best movies for the year. But if you haven't seen I Saw the TV Glow, I definitely recommend it. It is a cool movie.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's what. Rebel Ridge, which is also a good movie.
Yeah.
But
right. That should never have been on everyone's top 10 list.
I don't
unless you're doing the top 10 films I saw on Netflix.
Or you're doing like the top 40 movies.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
like
right.
That.
Lists are bigger than 10.
Maybe
so. That's true.
Yeah. Hard Truths, which is a Mike Lee movie, which also is a really good movie. They're just, again, there's something about it where I really liked the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. I think it's like a 7-ish.
Yeah.
But, I don't bring the right things to it, maybe. Who knows, right? But it just wasn't like something that had like that next level.
Yeah.
And especially, I expected Mike Lee to have more in this movie and get somewhere more out of it, which is not what he was going for, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Sing Sing is another one, which I think is also a really good movie. I just don't think it's in the top 10 or really at the highest. It's a really cool movie. The actors in it are great. But it's I don't know. Okay, A Real Pain, which we did cover. That's on a lot of people's lists.
Yep.
And I can understand that being on your list about 3/4 of the movie. The other quarter of the movie for me is goofy. Right. Yeah. It's it's just not that good. Anyway, Anora I already mentioned. That's obviously on everyone's list because it won.
Won.
But we already covered
when
that.
We say that sometimes I have to say it again. Like it won.
Yeah.
It won.
We did cover that, and I'm not even going to mention it. Nickel Boys is probably
Oh, I forgot about Nickel
one of
Boys.
the ones that is fairly close
Yeah,
on my list. Some of them are like, they're not movies that I think this shouldn't be on anyone's list. They're just not on my list. You know, if my list was like 15 or whatever, probably have
15.
Nickel Boys. It would also
I
have
don't know about that.
Love Lies Bleeding, which is Kristen Stewart movie.
Yep.
That's on a lot of people's lists, and it's really good. It's another one of those though that if I have to compare it to other things that also were really good, it just wasn't like that, you know. But that's a very solid movie. Amelia Perez, which is on a lot of people's list, and it just did not hit me. It was good. Again, it was like, the acting was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
It just didn't really hit me. Like, it did not blow me away to like the next level. And again, it was a movie too where that one I wasn't really expecting it to either. Like, I'm like, just not really what this movie is trying to be, or whatever. So now that that's out of the way, there are a couple more movies I have to mention because they are on my, I just want to call them out. They're not they're not like necessarily almost on my list or anything.
Yeah.
But there's some other movies that I want to mention. Hitman, which we covered, which I've actually seen that on some people's lists even.
So did I.
And I'm like, okay, now you're crazy. Or if it's a really long list, right? But as much as I just did not love that movie and thought it was so very goofy at times, I still think about that movie every once in a while. It had fun moments in it. It's worth watching. It's worth watching, and it's fun. And so it's like, if you still haven't caught that, catch that one. My Old Ass, which I've even seen that on some people's lists. It's just not that good. But it is good. It's just not that, it's not good enough to, I think, take that kind of seriously and say it's like one of the best movies. There's way too much competition at that point. But it is a good movie and it's fun and you should check it out. Okay, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is totally goofy and silly. But it was a fun movie. And it's worth not completely fading away. Anyway, and you should check it out. And I had a lot of fun with it. Much of it is very silly. I remember like rolling my eyes at something.
Right.
But also a lot of it is good, and the people in it are, very screen friendly and pulling you along in it, and it's fun. Okay, and then some that we have not really mentioned. Molly and Max in the Future is a really screwy movie.
I forgot about that.
But it is kind of fun, and it's worth checking out. And it's very like small budget. And it's Mame, the hell's her name? Zoja, or something.
I think that's it.
And that's horrible that I get the name wrong. But it's clearly really low budget, and it's really, really goofy. But it is a kind of fun movie. And especially it's like sci-fi future and everything, but also it's just like a bunch of conversations happening. And it's pretty cool and worth checking out. There's a movie called Joy that nobody paid any attention to. It's Bill Nighy, James Norton, and our favorite, Thomasin McKenzie. And it's the movie about like the first test tube baby.
Oh.
And it is very under the radar type of a movie that no one would tell you to watch
out
or whatever. But it is fun. It's good. They are all really good in it, and
that's cool.
That's the kind of movie where you might go, yeah, I don't care what the story is.
Yeah.
But it's a fun movie. And then Wicked Little Letters, which is Olivia Colman
Oh yeah, I know what that is.
Somebody starts sending these horrible
Yeah.
letters to people.
I thought that looked good.
That is
I haven't seen that
really
yet.
cool. That's
Yeah.
one that's probably kind of
I love
close.
her, so I don't care. But yeah,
She's great in it.
she's great.
The story is kind of hilarious and weird.
Yeah.
And it's
Wicked Little Letters. I'm gonna watch
period kind of piece, but it's a lot of fun. I think it loses itself at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this is like based on a book, but it's weird because you get like 80% through with the movie, and then it kind of just feels like they only ever had 80% of the script. And they got to that point and they were like, let's do this.
Right.
Well, like, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Interesting.
All of a sudden, no one's in charge. It's anarchy. We'll just do whatever. What seems like it would happen, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not all together. But it's a really good movie, and it's really fun, and Olivia Colman's awesome. And then finally, the other movie that I have to mention, because it's so awesome, and I want everyone to see it, but it's like a documentary. And, like, I really don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to find half documentaries on my list, because I feel like
I do that sometimes.
I feel like those really are separate things.
Oh,
Which I like. I
it.
like the Critics'
Alright.
Choice Awards for having its own documentary whole show. There's like whole
There is.
thing. It's only documentaries, whatever.
Right.
And not that something that's a documentary like could get nominated for this picture or whatever. But I don't know. It's just like I like this story.
Which one is this?
And it's like, does that mean that this is a good documentary movie? I mean, I'm not basing my like of it on any movie things.
Right.
I just love this story and I get to see it. I don't think that's like really a way to judge what's happening in the movie, right? Like, maybe other documentarians think as a documentary, this movie is garbage.
Yeah.
But I still like this story and want to watch this movie. So, you know. Anyway, this is a story about this guy who died when he was 25.
Yeah.
And he was like partially paralyzed. He had like a genetic muscular disorder. And he played World of Warcraft.
Oh, I know this movie.
And
Yep.
After he died,
This was supposed to be great. I haven't seen it yet.
all of the real people who played with him basically like tell his parents about what a great person he was.
Right. They knew him by
They
his
had
disability.
this life in game.
Yeah.
And this is who
Yeah.
his character person was. And
Right.
he was like, and like for years and years and years playing all the time.
Right.
Because, I mean, played a lot.
Right. He's just the only way those
Got to-
people knew him. They didn't know
Right.
his.
And it is
That's
the
awesome.
most awesome movie.
Yeah, it sounds great. I remember seeing previews for that. I wanted to see that.
So
What's the name?
crazy cool. It's called The Remarkable Life of Ibelin.
That's right.
And it's, you know,
I can't
it's
wait
like
to see that.
character name
Yep.
or whatever. And it is the craziest, like, awesome thing for these parents
Yeah.
to like get that, to have that happen, you know, now and get that, you know, whole, like, they had no idea. Right?
Yeah, they had
like,
no idea. Right.
that they now get this whole
And even if they had an inkling of an idea, they
community
didn't
of
understand
something or
what the
whatever.
community side of a
right,
of a
right, right,
MMO, you know, those kind of games they just didn't get.
right.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And so it's good on its own, and it's not bad as just a
Yeah.
getting an idea of what happens, and
Yeah.
maybe don't tell your kids to get off game all the time or whatever. But it was such a crazy thing to experience.
Yeah. For sure.
Parents getting. Anyway, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is all I have to talk about for this. So there.
I'm not going to run through a bunch of things. I'm going to say this. I think I can do it in 30 seconds. For anybody that's new, for anyone who has forgotten, we come to the list making kind of from different places. Mark is begrudgingly making a list because I don't like lists. I'll make a list about why I love lists. I love lists and reading lists. Just because something is number one on my list doesn't mean it was the highest rated film. Sometimes a film that's a 7 beats a 10. It's just Something that you said a few minutes ago about Hitman made me want to redo this real quick. Um, for me, at least, sometimes it's components of the film. It's how much I think about it. Have I thought about this film at all since I've seen it? Stop thinking about it? No. If I
Can
can't
I
stop,
remember what happened
right,
in it?
and if I
Well,
can't
maybe it's
stop
not that
thinking
high.
about a 7, then that's a better film than some Irishman that's put together and perfect and everybody's doing awesome. Like, I don't care. But if I think about Hitman a lot and I tell people a lot, I have so much fun talking about it. And that's one of my favorite films. That's why certain things. So if you're watching us and listening to us and playing along, which I can't imagine you are, but we do, our list shouldn't be 10 down to 7. It can be,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be. And sometimes when we get messages through emails to you or text messages or online, people will say, "Hey, how the hell could this beat that when that got a better rating?" And the fact is, complicated. Actually, it's pretty simple. Doesn't work.
It's
So
like,
that's the quick disclaimer.
yeah, and I just have to say on that disclaimer, and that's, I think, how it should be, right?
Me too.
If a person writes a list,
Yeah.
if a movie critic is writing a list, it should be something different than just going to like Rotten Tomatoes and going, what are the highest rated
What it
movies?
is? Oh,
Or,
that must be it.
you
Yeah,
know,
because that
so
doesn't
that
work for me.
this is what it is, right?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so we'll continue with our going back and forthness, I guess.
Okay.
Right, and we'll bounce back as we always have.
Yeah.
So okay, my number 10 is Fall Guy.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
and almost exclusively because I could just watch that again
That's
right
fun.
now.
It's just fun.
It's so
It's just a good
fun. I had all kinds of problems with it. I think the closer it gets to the end, the more stupid it gets, the more I don't even want to watch it.
I know.
Especially at the very end,
Oh, man.
where it's just like,
Yeah.
it becomes a cartoon or something and it's like horrible. But all through the movie, it's so fun. And I have seen it like 2 more times because I had to watch it with other people.
Right.
And really it's like just as fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Watching it
I
again.
haven't watched it since we saw it.
And I think all of everyone who's in it is really good.
Yeah.
Even though some of the people in it have crap stuff to do,
Right.
especially
That's
towards
true.
the end.
That's true.
But man, it was just so fun, and I can't believe, not that I think that this should be super high on everyone's list or anything like that, but I can't believe how just everyone kind of like glossed over this movie like all year long and gave it like no attention.
People were tired of its energy.
Yeah, I guess.
I predict you're only going to like 50% of my list. Some years you don't like my list at all, and this is going to be one of them. This is a weird year for me making lists. I had a really strange time, but when I put the things together and I moved them around, this is where they settled. And not just because I stopped. I worked it and worked it and worked it and would think, is there a film better than number 3? Yeah, okay, well then that's number 2. I don't know if it's number 1, but I moved things around. So I said all that to get to this. My number 10 is Anna Kendrick's debut for directing. It was Woman of the Hour. I thought about Woman of the Hour a lot, and not because of the film necessarily, but because she did something throughout most of that film that I thought was pretty difficult, and she conveyed a female's sense of danger and oppression by just normal people around her. Her harmless neighbor, who at times you can see is actually very threatening to her and doesn't know he is being threatening to her, is conveyed in a way that I thought very skillfully and deftly done. Loved the whole movie. Thought about it a bunch, and I talked about it a bunch with my girlfriend, and we talked about it with other people too. So that's why it's 10 for me.
Yeah, that's
9 for me is a film you already don't like. It's a documentary. It's called Music by John Williams, and that's a soft spot for me. I love John Williams. I love all the John Williams scores. I grew up watching John Williams' movies because he's Spielberg and Lucas. I learned a few things about John Williams I didn't know. I really liked listening to him talk, and at the end of it, I was just on sort of a whirlwind of watching. If I'm being critical of my own pick, it was sort of a glorified version of like a YouTube short. Like somebody could have put this on a DVD and been like, here's a retrospect of John Williams, and it would have been that. This was about 2 hours. And if you tell me there's a documentary about Michael Jordan or John Williams or Indiana Jones, I'm in. So that was my number 9. I'm in. I'm in. There's certain things that I'm just always going to be for,
Okay.
and that's it. So
All
that
right.
was my 9.
All right. My 9 is Wicked, which
Interesting.
which
That's interesting.
I would say
That's cool.
we covered a little bit last week, but we didn't really like do a show on it. Which I didn't love. And I didn't love in a variety of ways. And we talked about this last week. I was like, this is just like one more step removed from the book, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the musical removed itself a little bit.
Yep.
And now this is, it's not that far removed, but it is very shiny.
Right.
But I think it was pretty solid adaptation of trying to take a musical play and make it into a movie.
Yeah.
And I thought, for the most part, the people in it were really, really good.
Yeah.
Whether I stand them in real life or not.
Right. That's a good point.
And I think that I think that it delivered, at least to I can't say that I loved it, right?
Yeah.
Or that I really was like, yay, Wicked, even though Wicked, the play itself, I was kind of like, okay, yay.
Right.
But still, it's weird for me that it just doesn't hit the way the book hits.
Yeah.
And it's, too concerned with what makes the most money selling Broadway tickets versus what's the most faithful adaptation of the book. But I thought it was really fun to watch, though.
Yeah.
Still, like God knows how many other movies that we mentioned just now. And I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's like this good time doing something really pretty solidly well, even if I don't love it, was good enough.
Yeah.
So that's my 9.
That's your 9. What's your 8?
All right, my 8 is, we're already like taking up too much time. My 8 is Will and Harper, which is a documentary. So see,
there you go.
There
you go, Shane.
You thought there should
be sucker.
A documentary.
Yeah, I thought you weren't gonna.
It's cool. Will Ferrell, and
this is a great one.
Without going crazily into it, even though like we didn't cover it because it's a documentary, we're almost never.
We could have covered
a
this
documentary.
This is a good one.
And it's basically this road trip of come to terms with this person who you're friends with for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Comes out as transgender.
Right.
And it's insanely well done.
Yeah.
And Will Ferrell is great in it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm not going to go on and on, but I think the coolest thing about it is the way in which Will Ferrell actually kind of is bad at being a transgender ally.
Right.
In ways.
Right.
But while going, I don't know. Tell me how to be
He's
better.
open to growth.
Right.
He's open for growth in that.
Right.
That
He's
makes
like,
a better story. Yeah.
He's like, probably, I don't know. He's like, seriously, like,
awesome.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then, kind of like just go through the whole thing. And also, it's by two people who have massive Saturday Night Live connection. They're hilarious people. And so it's like, it's really funny too. But also it's just really worth watching. And so weird. When I first heard about this, I was like, I feel like Will Ferrell's a jerk for even wanting to do this. Hey, let's stick a video camera in your face and, whatever.
That'll be fun.
And it turns out it's actually
thoughtful, not
completely the opposite of that, right? So anyway, so that's my
8. I don't even think you. Well, I have the ratings here. I know what you thought of it. You didn't like this very much. 8 for me. I really liked. It was Wolves. It's George Clooney and Brad Pitt's just sort of just let's take 3 weeks and have fun making a film together. I had a lot of fun watching it. I told a bunch of people to see it. It was either, it actually, there was a moment where it came to that, and they weren't really in competition with each other, but The Instigators, which had Casey Affleck and Matt Damon, what The Instigators couldn't do for me, Wolves did do for me. Wolves did do for me, not Wolves. Wolves did do for me. And I just, you know, had a fun time watching it. Thought about it a weird amount. I thought about a few scenes more than others, but I had enough fun. And when I started sliding things around, it wasn't as good as the ones ahead of it, which is maybe surprising for the next one. 7 for me is The Gorge. I was surprised at how much I liked The Gorge. I do not like the end at all.
Right.
But I loved, and I don't really like the first 5 minutes. Forget that. The next 10 to 80 minutes, I was all over that. I had so much fun watching Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller go back and forth and develop something that I thought was a little fabricated. Of course, it's fabricated, but just meaningful to me. And I had a blast watching it. So that was my 7.
Okay.
Your 7.
Yeah, I'll kind of give you both of those. Wolves, I feel like
these are at the bottom of my list.
It was,
so it's not hard,
no, that's okay.
But
Wolves was really good. I feel like Wolves for me never was even on my radar.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's just not trying to be, right? It's not trying to be one of the best of the year.
That's not it.
And it is really fun. There's a lot of it that I didn't like, but there was a lot of it that I did like. And Gorge is probably fairly similar, but I will give you, if you could take 60 minutes out of The Gorge and have that be on your list, that might be on my list.
And not to jump in on your list either, the way I make my list real quick is I take the list that I write every time we see a film and I throw it into the computer and I just start. If I'm making my best, I get rid of everything that's below a 5. I just remove everything. And then everything that's left, I start moving things around. Start with the 10s, 9s, and 8s, and I see is there a 7 or a 6 that can slide in. And through that elimination, that's how I get these. I don't know that I would have thought of Wolves if it wasn't written down, which almost means why it shouldn't be on my list. That's why I have a list, so I don't have to think of it. So, your 7.
All right, my 7 is The Outrun with Saoirse Ronan. And it is a movie that I think everyone who will watch it will either love it or stop watching it. I think those are the only options. And I think the only reason that this isn't on more people's lists or nominated for things is that people just paid no attention to this release happening at all. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's not drug addiction year or whatever, but it's Saoirse Ronan kind of goes back to Ireland to, really self-reflect kind of for a long time. And this is a movie where it is kind of so what happens is you're I don't know.
Just stuff. Just living, man.
Yeah.
LIVIN.
And she's amazing in it. But it's also very kind of oddly filmed where not only is the landscape a character people will say sometimes, but also is weirdly connected to the plot. In a
that's
way.
Cool too.
But it is she's incredible in it, and it's story, like I said, kind of about addiction, your past, coming to terms with yourself, and on and on and on. But the way that things kind of get pulled out in this movie is so much, I think, more real than any 5 other movies that everyone loves, like Nora, or just quickly, comparatively, and the way things come out in Nora is so sorry, pedestrian, comic booky.
Sure, definitely.
And in this one, it's a whole different world, and I think it's Saoirse Ronan at maybe her best. She's awesome. Anyway, but she's incredible.
That's your 7. What's your 6?
My 6 is The Wild Robot. which I think hilariously like starts us on the journey of why my list this year is weird.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a lot of animated movies on it for a 10 movie list. There are a really weird amount of W's on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why this year, but I kept looking at my list going, wait, I wrote that down wrong because like every movie starts with W.
Right.
The Wild Robot was awesome, and I again can't remember. I feel like the Critics' Choice gave it to The Wild Robot. Oscars gave it to Flow. Either way, it's two like not Disney animated movies that are like really up there in contention for animated movies. But it was, I think, like so oddly well done that it reminded me, and I think I said this before, it reminded me of the Iron Giant, where one of the main things about the Iron Giant was that it's like, this is not how people make animated movies, right? Like, like this is not how this would go in your storyboard and all that. And the Wild Robot was too. It was such a just, you know, there were so many times during this movie that I was like, really? Like, you're gonna actually just like go there and do that and I don't know, not try and do some cute joke or something. Like it was, but it is sucks you in so much, and you know, whatever, it's really good.
So that's
okay, so that's
six. My six was Furiosa, which I was surprised. This is a perfect example of how I make the list and why I don't have a lot of premeditated stuff. I think I know what the first 3 or 4 are going to be. And I always know what the first couple are going to be on the worst list. But I don't know where the middle falls. I was surprised Furiosa made it. It was almost like bracketology, where again, things are up against each other. And I'm like, do you like Wolves more than the Gorge? I thought about the Gorge more. So Wolves goes down. Furiosa just kept moving, and then it hit a wall. Hit a wall because it can't go by number 5, which I'm about to say. But Furiosa kept being more thought of, more fun. I didn't love it the way I loved Fury Road, but it kept edging everything out. This is one of those 13% Oscar winners.
Right.
I think it gets 6.4, and the others below it are just on its tail. But anyway, 6 for me is Furiosa. 5 is Fall Guy. Fall Guy was a lot of fun, and I had a blast, and it's just one more reason to just watch it again, which I haven't seen since we saw it.
Oh, wow.
But I just keep knowing that when I sit down, forgetting the last 15 or 18 minutes, I'm going to have so much fun with the first hour and a half. It's just something to look forward to, and it's sort of like in my back pocket if I'm feeling like, what am I going to do? Throw the Fall Guy on. So that's my 5.
Okay. All right, so that's 2 for you then. All right,
your 5.
My 5 is His Three Daughters, which is a really like slow movie with, you know, just a bunch of conversations.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know, easily passed over.
Yeah.
Although I have seen this on a lot
of
people's lists as well, and deservedly so, obviously. But it's Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen, and they are the 3 daughters who, you know, come back because now we have to like take care of Dad, or we have to figure out who's going to take care of him, or we have to do something, but we have no idea what it is, and none of us want to be here necessarily, but we have to all show up and figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which means we have to, you know, talk about our whole lives, have all these conversations that no one wants to have and everyone's been avoiding forever.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them are so good. If you had the wrong people in this movie, it wouldn't even be on the list at all. Right. Everything else could be exactly the same.
Right.
But Elizabeth Olsen especially is awesome. Natasha Lyonne is really, really good. And I want to be clear on that.
Right.
But for me, Natasha Lyonne is getting a little bit too, all of her characters really resemble each other a lot. Which, you know,
Okay.
And they're good characters.
Right,
And
that's fine. And she can play them
and everything, right?
Yeah. A lot of range there.
But there just are. You'll be watching this movie, and there's just hints of, she's in a TV show
She's
with
Poker
the
Face.
yeah,
Right.
and
right.
and it's just. But overall, all three of them together are just great, and the script is really, really good. And this is a good movie to force people to watch.
Yeah.
To just go, look, this is what I mean by other people write conversations that people would not really have, right? There's so much dialogue in everything, right? Where, most people just don't even pay attention to it at all. I'm just here to watch the Fall Guy and go, this happens, and now this crashes or whatever.
Yeah.
And this movie, everything that happens is like, all these characters are those characters. And what happens next is like what that character would do and what they would say.
Right.
And when they all have a conversation, it's not like you're watching some goofy sitcom or half-baked drama show where this is what I have to say because this is where I'm going next or whatever, right? Like the conversations are awesome.
That's cool.
Anyway, so that one is awesome. And I got to do another one. Right? My number 4 is Inside Out 2. And I'll tell you, there was like a week where...
I almost forgot that came out this year.
Right?
But we saw that very early.
There was...
this time last year.
There was like a week or two where, because every once in a while you say this ever since Dalmatians out, but there was a while where I was like, I don't know how anything's going to be above Inside Out 2 because, man, that was just awesome.
I think you literally said that when we did it too.
And not only was it crazy awesome,
it's great,
and weird that a lot of people forgot about it.
Yeah.
But it was really great, but also it just was like, man, this is like practically like a public service movie for the kids who are going to be watching, And I mean, that just kind of adds something into it. But anyway, I loved it. Yeah, it was great, and that is 4.
4 for me. I couldn't tell from your list of things whether this is going to make it or not, but it made it for me, and I really had more fun with it than I thought I was going to because I'm not the biggest Bob Dylan fan in the world. But I actually I had so much fun with A Complete Unknown. Yeah. I had so much fun watching the story, watching Chalamet, watching the cast, watching Edward Norton. Like, Ed, you're listening, so don't take this the wrong way, but I forget you can really act. Like, and when you do really act, I'm not trying to dismiss anything else because like you're great in almost everything I see you in, but man, just watching him act like someone who clearly looks like Edward Norton. That's not Edward Norton. That it hit everything for me just right, but it didn't hit everything perfect. And it's hard to know where, but again, when it went into the brackets, climbing, but it hit a wall. That's my number 4. The wall it hit was Inside Out 2. Inside Out 2, I thought everything you said was the same. I'm not going to belabor it because we're trying to go through time quickly. I will say this. I think it would have been very easy for them to play it safe, just sort of do a film that was bankable and would make a shitload of money. They took a lot of guts to dive even deeper. And, Toy Story and Toy Story 2 sort of did that same thing. There are films that do the same thing. And then there are those, and I'm not just saying animated, but animated's easy. Like, I don't think The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2 did this. The Incredibles is a stunning film. The second one, not so much. This topped what I thought was almost a perfect film the first time around.
Right.
But it said, hey, guess what? I think we can look at anxiety and depression and neuroses, and I think we can make it palpable, approachable, while also making it something you can talk about to anybody of any age. I think it's important for kids to see this so that they know they're okay. And I was just blown away.
Yeah.
I just thought it was amazing. And it didn't have to be, and that's also part of why it did.
Yeah.
So that was my number 3.
And I will give you
Complete Unknown.
A Complete Unknown in a way. I probably should have had that.
I was waiting for you to throw it in something, and I'm like, that's on a lot of lists.
Because that's another one that is
great.
like really, really close to being on my list.
Yeah.
Not on my list, but it is really good, and I agree with all the stuff that you said. It just did not quite hit me the same.
Yeah.
But it is really, really okay. So you did 3.
You're up to 3.
My 3 is Kinds of Kindness.
I knew I was going to regret.
Lanthimos.
I regret not seeing this year.
That's why.
Tip my hat. Yeah, it's not on my list. I didn't get to it. I didn't get to 3 hours and 14 minutes of Yorgos doing some stuff, but I want to. Just didn't do it.
It is, and it's coming right off of the back of him.
No, that bums me out.
On top of the world, and this one is really interesting, and I'm not going to go all the way. Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
Rocks this movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
So hard.
I'm gonna have to watch this weekend.
And it's like 3 different stories, all in one thing, and it is interesting. And what I really loved about it, I guess, and it just kind of hit me more, is that the last couple of things that he has done have been awesome.
Yeah.
And like the favorite. And the favorite though is like very him, but also not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same is true to a certain extent with other things that he's done.
Yeah.
Really, really recently. This is like kind of Back to the Lobster. Like,
oh God, you're killing me, dude.
Yeah. Or like The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Like,
I thought I had time to watch it.
Different, world, and everyone is so good in it, and it is fantastic.
I'm going to amend my list.
I have to think that it will blow anyone away.
Yeah.
And the only reason that more people aren't talking about it is because they just haven't seen it. It did not get like a gigantic push and everything, whatever. And it was this one was like straight to
something. Stream
Prime or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, Apple, whatever it was, it went straight.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my number 3. My number 2 is Dune Part 2, which everyone probably knew was coming.
Yeah.
Sooner or later,
especially if you heard us review it.
Right. Yeah, and we don't have to rehash that whole movie, but I was really scared going into this, and I admit completely, right, that how much I liked it could be partially a result of how scared I was.
Oh, yeah. How relieved
that
you were
it was going to
they didn't screw it up.
Be like kind of screwed up, because I really liked the first one.
Yeah.
But I had some I had some reservations about the first one because it was like, we left out this, we're not really talking about this isn't happening, and now I'm like, now we have to do a whole other movie of what does that turn into as we keep going, and there still are some things that I think are weird changes to how the universe works that we're in, but I mean, man, I really like it.
Maybe you'll fix it in the third one. Yeah, that's awesome. That's your 2. Okay, 2 for me. 3 for me was Inside Out. Right. 2 for me, also Dune 2. I like Denis Villeneuve's almost entire film archive, so it's very little surprise. But I was never a Dune fan. It made me Dune fan. I'm not going to go over it too much because we covered it in a pretty big episode too. It's just something that I kept thinking about. It was such a beautiful, engaging, exciting film that stood up above almost everything else. Something else beat it. My number 1 was Flow. I haven't stopped thinking about Flow since I saw it. And I didn't see it that long ago. But as a silent animated film that's got a real quick running time, it manages to do just about everything you need in a story if you can watch an animated film and it's a silent movie.
Right.
If you can just get past whatever bias about entertainment you might or might not have, it's perfect.
Or the fact that
it's just
look at your phone.
Yeah, like it's just and that's something else. Like when we saw Dune, we were in the theater. That one's easy. I never wanted to look. Like I started watching it, and we just talked about this not that long ago. I just started watching it. I was like, this absolutely, this is almost perfect, and then it kept going, and I'm like, well, this is gonna fall apart somewhere dumb, and this is gonna be something stupid. There's a couple moments as it moves along, where I'm like, go to this next thing. I'm more interested in certain things than other things. But I love Flow so much. It was my number one.
Yeah. That was my number one.
Okay. All right, that's awesome.
There's no point in like.
I mean, what an amazing film, and just forget stuff that we just talked about, like on open software. You and I could make Flow tomorrow if we want. I mean, we can't do that, but we could start.
Right.
Just everything about the movie is such an amazingly fun story, and then watching it, looking back on it, and being like, crap, I just watched.
Right. I think there's so much in the way that movie is put together, the way that it basically, like if you're super analyzing, right? The way that it is like handing out its information,
Yeah.
the way that it gets from one place to another, how gorgeous it looks anyway.
Yep.
And how you get characters.
Yeah.
And then later you get characters, and the characters, as much as they are just animals in this goofy silent thing, that are like true to those characters in ways that like somehow other movies cannot do as well.
Fathom how to do it in 3 hours. Right? And not to jump on your thing too, when I say silent movie, I don't mean it's silent. Like they don't talk like they're a Pixar movie. They meow, they bark, they caw. Like when one of the birds makes a noise, you can tell what it's feeling. And it's so effectively just. I remember somebody once said, I actually think it might have been Sugar Ray Leonard. He was like, you can always tell that a person is a boxer. There's an economy of movement. They don't make any wasted effort. They don't swing their arms a lot. They don't do these things. It's just direct to where they're going, and that's it. I actually thought about that when I saw Float. There's no wasted effort here. Everything services the story to either move the story along to the conclusion that it's trying to get, or to the conflict that it needs to resolve, or it's to develop characters who are anthropomorphically we're going to care about or not. I wound up caring about things that never said a word, worrying about the fate of animated things that aren't really living. Like it was
and it's like it's got things to say.
And it has things to right. That's the other thing on top of all that.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's
oh man, that's how I'm psyched you like that.
I think the movie most this year, even in serious competition with like Inside Out 2 and Wild Robot, and not things that are only animated either, but other things too.
Right.
I think it's the movie the most this year that like if you suddenly had to have a film class next year, that you could get so much explanation of how to do things and what works and what doesn't and stuff out of this one goofy animated movie.
Right. If you told me this was a throwaway film that someone was just experimenting, I would have believed you.
Right.
Like that. I don't know that they designed it to be an Oscar winner or an award winner, but man, I don't know how when you see it, you can't just be like, take all the awards now.
Right.
How did you do that?
All right. So we've gone totally over time, but that's the best. Next time we have to do the worst.
That'll be fun.
Which
actually
spoiled for choice on worst this year.
Right.
And then after that will be our awards, and then we will probably fit in some more movies while we're doing those two.
Yep.
So just thanks for tuning in. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe, rate us on iTunes and everywhere else you happen to be listening to and or watching this. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.